Okay, so let's start. Who has a presentation can start now so that we can continue and how many we can take today.
Yeah, good afternoon, South Africa, and good morning, America. I am not presenting actually, but Dr. Saba is presenting, and I want to share his slides with you. So please, can you see it?
Okay.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to play it now.
Good day to you all. It's my pleasure to be presenting on the topic connecting the dots, women in visibility and capital in small-scale fisheries at the 4th World Small-Scale Fisheries Congress Series in Africa, holding in South Africa, Cape Town. Introduction. The importance of an activity or node in any value chain is evaluated on the precision and quality of the collected data and its analysis. So in many cases, there is absence of gender disaggregated data, especially in Africa, and this undermines women's contributions and fails to capture the nuances among women. Therefore, it is quite unfortunate that policymakers and development agencies end up implementing one-size-fits-all solutions to the challenges faced by women. SSF. This paper, therefore, aims to showcase the entrepreneurial women and their roles in small-scale fisheries by highlighting, enabling, or promoting factors that have helped shape their resilience. The objectives of this paper include to unmask the multifaceted roles of women in a typical small-scale fishery system and identify the characteristics of the entrepreneurial women in the small-scale fishery system. It is also to describe how capital has defined or shaped women's roles, status, and responsibilities, and to recommend measures to improve women's resilience and support their growth for enhanced contributions to the small-scale fisheries. Literature review was done for articles from 6 West African countries including Ghana, Nigeria, Togo, Gambia, Sierra Leone, and Cameroon within over a period of 23 years from the year 2000 to 2022. Also, capital defining the enabling and limiting factors to women was categorized as human, social, physical, natural, and financial. What are the multifaceted roles of women in SSF? Firstly, is to identify the diverse roles of women along the SSF value chains within households and communities. Unfortunately, due to increased pressure, these women engage in alternative livelihoods to supplement their income from fishing. Livelihood opportunities, both fishing and non-fishing, depend on many factors including age, saving status, family circumstances, education, fishing seasonality, and cultural constraints. Who are the entrepreneurial women in small-scale fisheries? These are women who are the major actors in processing. They are also greatly involved in transportation, distribution, marketing of fish and fishery products. They invest in the male-dominated fishing node of the value chain and are the most critical sources of informal credit to fishers and fish traders. These women bargain with fishermen, they mediate conflicts over pricing and processing, and serve as the mouthpiece for local women involved in the industry. They are leaders in their community, in the community level governance structures. They also determine fish prices and decide on matters pertaining to fish smoking and fish marketing. How capital defines or shapes women's roles, status, and responsibilities. First to be considered is the human capital. It was found that women learned skills at young ages and historically relied more on a demonstration effect, and correspondingly, the years of experience has been correlated with social competence and achievement of these women, such that older women tend to own fish processing businesses while younger women or girls assist these older women in carrying out. For the physical capital, processors adopt technology based on the level of acceptance in their locality. By using wide range of local and traditional technologies to smoke and dry fish, the market and consumer acceptability is also a factor that determines the adoption rate of the technology. For the natural capital, it refers to the access these women have to fish, and there is a direct or indirect rights or access to fish, depending on the existence of intrafamilial relations, wealth, financial capital, and social capital. In Ghana, for example, ownership is marked with usufruct rights invariably surrendered to the male family member. Also in Ghana, Oyster Women's Association is one of the first African women's fisheries organizations to obtain exclusive rights, while in Togo, women were willing to exercise their fishing skills, especially when organized in groups. Talking about the financial capital, women of high socioeconomic status, big business sizes, and capital investments differed, as did the outcomes of their businesses. The source of startup capital and credit to women was mainly informal, such as savings, family, friends, private creditors. Other sources are rotating service groups, whereby the women come together to contribute and the total amount is given to certain individual as agreed. Some of the popular names of such groups include Jangi in different areas, include Jangi, Alajo, Isusu, Osusu, and so on and so forth. For this kind of arrangement, trust and degree of cohesion are important factors determining the social capital. Women leverage on social capital and networks to acquire fishing assets on credit from fishermen and wholesalers. In Togo, women with strong social capital succeed in getting loans from the banks, and this helps them. The political capital shows that countries in West Africa are signatories to core legal instruments that support women and gender inclusion in SSF. The West African region is home to the African Confederation of Professional Artisanal Fisheries Organizations, CAOPA, a strong advocate for women in fisheries. In Ghana, women show more responsibility in fisheries management, supporting closed season and against illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing. In the Gambia, the women have been trained in new and more environmentally friendly oyster harvesting methods that do not involve the destruction of. There are some constraints to the involvement of women in small-scale fisheries, and these include social restrictions such as cultural norms and taboos that limit majority of the women from participating in capture operations at sea. There's also stereotypical gender roles which expect women to fulfill unpaid reproductive and complementary work, which limits time and mobility and may not be included in any economic analysis of the small-scale fisheries. The fear of negative social reaction to women taking on roles perceived as reserved for males, and the dependence of women on other links in the value chain, particularly restricts their full potential and autonomy. Furthermore, women born into poor families without husbands lack support and may be stuck as laborers for their entire working life. These women also often lack the resources needed to build large social networks, influence, and ability to access credit facilities. Most women lack courage to raise their voices in the presence of men, and in some organizations, they avoid even speaking out. Improved fish processing technologies lack women's inputs, therefore are inappropriate to socioeconomic contexts, and at times may be imposed and thereby suffer from poor adoption among women. To conclude, social capital are important entry points for setting up a fishing business and intervention. Family heritage enables a new entrant to enjoy the privilege of starting up a trade without any physical capital. Women that lack direct access to fish implies limited opportunity to participate and grow in business. Within the local context, expertise and success achieved in post-harvest nodes are independent of formal schooling. Women demonstrate courage and resilience despite all the challenges in fisheries management and are proven advocates against illegal or bad fishing practices. The recommendations are as follows. Countries must adopt policy and legislative frameworks for small-scale fisheries aligned with the small-scale fisheries voluntary guidelines. Interventions should be tailored to the needs of women, considering their different socio-economic characteristics. In decision-making processes, gender issues should not be misconstrued as women issues. The adoption of a bottom-up approach in the design, construction, and the use of new technology should be made paramount. The training of extension officers in gender issues and gender mainstreaming is also important. Women should also be trained in leadership and advocacy for improved fisheries management and secured access to fish for community well-being, job security, and preservation of ocean integrity. Coupling gender transformative approaches with high-level policy change, such as was done in Ghana, is highly quintessential. These are some of the references. You for listening to this and have a continuous wonderful deliberation. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Thanks for sharing the thought, Kafaya Tatsaba. I think we have colleagues from all over the world joining us. Is there any question? You can pull down your screen so that anybody who wants to make any intervention to the presentation. I think we have Alida is online. Alida, do you want any intervention or with listening to the importance of the entrepreneurial women and the roles they play and as well as their challenges?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you put me on the spot a little bit there, but thank you for the opportunity. And no real question. I just find it very, very interesting that women are gaining such prominence in fisheries, and I do wonder though about how we can actually, the implementation part, how it's actually happens. And I wonder if Baluki could point to a couple of clear examples of where we've seen this move forward, empowering women in the case of fisheries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think a response from the team member.
Okay, thank you, Alida. When we were going through the literature, we discovered that women have actually made tremendous progress, women in fisheries. So in terms of implementation, I think Ghana has gone ahead. They have a policy paper on national gender mainstreaming, for women, gender mainstreaming in the fishery sector. So, and I think that became possible because they had interventions in form of development agencies, like you said, which supported the CRC Center in Rhodes Island, University of Rhodes Island. And for a couple of years, they carried out so many projects on the small scale fisheries, and they were targeting the women also. There were lots of work, both PhD work, and the development work that were actually done in Ghana. So it's one of the outcome of the USAID intervention was the policy on national gender mainstreaming in the Ghana fishery sector, and it is on course. And if you actually follow the trends, Ghana is always in the forefront of talking about the close season, about so many things, and they have a Ghana Fisheries Commission. So I think the autonomy of the Ghana Fisheries Commission, being a separate entity from the Ministry of Agric, being a separate, also made it possible for them to pursue that goal. So, and of course, the ability to attract the attention of USAID, and with the massive funding and research project, development project that took place in Ghana in the last maybe 10 years or so, and the focus on people like Overa Ragnild, who have worked extensively on Ghana fisheries, the women in fisheries, actually helped, for people to know so much about Ghana. So I think it's what we can, for Nigeria, for instance, to move forward, we need some interventions, just like in the case of USAID, to help us to focus more on this small-scale fishery sector, and that will bring out such policy documents, just like in Ghana. I hope I've been able to make my point. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Kafaya. It's a very good response, and it does speak to the need. And I think a few speakers mentioned this morning about the need for, additional support services and investment essentially into the small scale fishery sector through, whether it's USAID or other projects. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other interventions, any questions that would help deepen the discussion on the roles of the small scale, the role of women, entrepreneurial women in the development of small scale fisheries? Okay, if we do not have any other one, I think it's just to highlight the fact that the roles, they are very important, and the women are crucial in small scale fisheries. And I think it can also be used as the basis for which more attention can be drawn to the small scale fisheries because of the importance of women roles in the small scale fisheries. So well done, and I think we can then take another presentation.
I'm speaking on providing institutional leadership for reliable data and development in small-scale fisheries in Nigeria. My name is Areola Foluke from the Department of Fisheries, Lagos State University. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm speaking from the US, so it's good morning here. The outline, it's a pity you can't say it. Institution is a concept with many definitions and interpretations, and key in the fisheries management discourse, as it is through institutions that management systems work. Institutional leadership, or leaders of organization, are based upon a notion of embedded or constrained agency, influence or negotiated power, and typically uses a backward-leaning vision, meaning that the vision is there to remind the organization of the core values. Institutional leadership, the promotion and protection of values. And in providing institutional leadership for reliable data and development in small-scale fisheries, it is important to understand the nature of small-scale fisheries to a very large extent, and why the values needed to be promoted and protected. Small-scale fisheries in real and relative terms are interchangeably used as artisanal fisheries, canoe fisheries, indigenous, traditional, or small boat fisheries in Nigeria. Nigeria's fisheries sector is almost exclusively artisanal, according to Akintola and Fakoya 2017. And artisanal or small-scale fisheries are traditional fisheries that involve fishing household using relatively small amount of capital and energy, relatively small fishing vessels, which make short fishing trips close to shore, mainly for local consumption. Small-scale fisheries play major roles in providing social and economic benefits to communities, including poverty alleviation, nutrition, food security, livelihood, and supporting their local cultures. Data is various kinds of information formatted in a particular way, and it is the world's biggest, most expensive, and most important commodity. Data is an essential resource for economic growth, competitiveness, innovation, job creation, societal progress, while accurate data collection is necessary to make informed business decisions. Data collection is the process of gathering, measuring, and analyzing accurate data from a variety of relative sources to find answers to research problems, answer questions, evaluate outcomes, and forecast trends and probabilities. The availability of reliable fisheries data, fishing efforts, and economic data are important for the monitoring and conservation of fisheries resources, policy formulation, planning, management, and overall development of small-scale fisheries in Nigeria. The national and international institutions play roles in providing leadership for obtaining current and reliable data and for the pursuit of overall development of the sector. The absence of such reliable fisheries statistics has made it difficult to take evidence-based decisions, develop policies, and implement them for the small-scale fisheries in Nigeria. The highest percentage contribution to total national fish production has been from artisanal fisheries and therefore deserves planned interventions. The ability of government to effectively plan interventions for the sector is greatly hindered by lack of data, which are inadequate to the relative importance of the fisheries sector to the economy. The objectives of this study is to examine the roles of national and international institutions in providing leadership for obtaining current and reliable data, to demonstrate the serious commitment and efforts of these institutions, and to profile ways of enhancing the capacity of data collection for small-scale fisheries sector for sustainable development in Nigeria. The methodology employed a mixed approach of qualitative studies, semi-structured interview, leverage on the process and outcome of the consultancy work on fisheries experts for statistical assessment in Nigeria by FAO and FCWC, and the research was augmented with secondary information and data. Several institutions have played significant roles, and they are all listed here. National ministries, departments, and agencies. For ministries, the most important one is the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, departments, Federal Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture, all state ministries of agriculture, fisheries, and cooperative have it in their mandate to collect data and information on fisheries and aquaculture. Agencies include Agri-Development Program, Bureau of Statistics, Central Bank, Nigeria Customs Service, research institutes, universities like our university through projects, TBTI project, 2v2 projects, international organizations, and other projects by students, international organizations, regional and sub-regional fisheries bodies such as FAO, World Bank, UNDP, FCWC, non-governmental organizations such as the Fisheries Society of Nigeria, banks in Nigeria with a Greek lending desk, and stakeholders, even the associations themselves, and LUFAs, AOFEN, and all of them. Results: the Federal Fisheries Service, incorporated in 1954, which has now become the Federal Department of Fisheries, started the very first 5-year fisheries development plans, planning 1945 to 1950, on available data in recognition of the potentials of fisheries as a tool for national and international trade. And subsequently, the Federal Department of Fisheries, which now is the Federal Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture, has based development plans on reliable, available data. These data are collected through different established rules, like hosting annual fisheries statistics review meeting. There's the State Agro-Statistic Coordinating Committee at the state level, the State Subcommittee on Fisheries Statistics, the fisheries data collecting structure at landing sites, jetties, and fish farms in all the 36 states of Nigeria and FCT. These structures used to collect data until the structural adjustment program. It's a structure that had both officers from the federal, state, and local government working together to collect data. But when the structural adjustment program came in Nigeria, that made it mandatory to lay off officers at the level of those collecting information, the collection of information for small-scale fisheries became difficult. Also, the harmonization of Nigeria to export fish and fish products to the EU in 1998, and the NEPAD Fish for All Summit that exposed aquaculture to private sector investment had a negative impact on small-scale fisheries, because this led to a shift in attention from small-scale fisheries and the near collapse of the structure for data collection for the sector. The Fisheries Committee for West Central Gulf of Guinea, FCWC, is a regional fisheries organization with membership in 6 West African countries, including Nigeria. It has played in recent times significant roles in fisheries data collection, in designing and updating fisheries statistical data collection and analysis instruments and methodologies, and especially tools for small-scale fisheries in Nigeria. It developed database center, carried out upgrading with FAO funding, and is coordinating the country, and in coordinating the country's submission to FAO, needs to have national inventories of fisheries, which is helping Nigeria a great deal. The focal point for Nigeria has reported that through that project that FCWC is carrying out, there has been the establishment of data collection teams in Nigeria for the management of the fisheries resources. There have been the development of the modular system for storing, retrieving, and analyzing data, cost-effective base surveys, capacity building, and implementation of fish frame survey in Lagos State as a pilot project. And FCWC is at present leading dialogue on data collection in Nigeria, carrying out advocacy by engaging government institutions with responsibility for data collection, implementing intervention projects on capacity building, soliciting financial and technical support from international agencies and donor agencies like FAO, firms, and others, and then regularly monitoring and assessing the progress that is being made. And the execution of the consultancy work on fisheries experts for statistical assessment in Nigeria helped in securing the commitment of the Apex small-scale NGO in Nigeria to partner with government for data collection, and those of directors of the 9 coastal states, and then adapt data collection form. And there's an ongoing program to retrain fisheries officers, both at the federal and state levels. Then the Federal Department of Fisheries too is one of the organizations that presently has approval of the National Council of Agriculture to carry out a program on data collection for the sector, and this will help small-scale fisheries data collecting system. And then Lagos State government too is carrying out registration of small-scale fishermen, and to achieve this, these fishermen must report their catches, so they collect data on fishing effort, catch, and contribution of fishermen to the economy of Lagos State. The challenges are many: no dedicated funding, partial collapse of the harmonized system and structure of data collection, lack of resources and logistics to facilitate data collection, neglect of operators that has made them to become hopeless. The operators are not happy in the sector. And then the non-implementation of the FAO small-scale SSF guidelines, the exposure of operators to climate change and the devastating effect of flooding and drought on that sector without any government intervention to help them out, and then the poor understanding of the need for data collection. Well, the discussion and conclusion is the immediate implementation of the FAO SSF guidelines. It has become so important now. And then to have institutional and governance structures that will support data collection for the sector, and funding, which will help to reverse the current debt of reliable data for the development of the SSF subsector. Recommendations, capacity building, education, reorientation of all stakeholders in Nigeria, from the government level to the operators, of the need to have reliable, correct data for planning and development of small-scale fisheries in Nigeria. There must be specific dedicated program or to train fisheries officers and then provide logistics, and deliberate consideration also must be given for community-based, inclusive, bottom-up approaches to building capacity for small-scale fisheries, data, activities, and development. Then establishing institutional governance in data collection in small-scale fisheries that would strongly consider having dedicated funding projects for data collection in the country. I want to thank you very much for listening, and I acknowledge the contribution of all the institutions to data collection or in small-scale fisheries in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Good presentation. Just to tell Nova, if you are hearing me, I think is the way the Zoom is divided, it has panelists 8, then attendees now 4. So attendees are those who are not member of the panel. So I think that's why you probably be seeing only 3. So now good. Do anybody wants to have 1 or 2 interventions on what was presented?
Yes, I do want to add something. Thank you, Dr. Ariola, for a well-loaded presentation. Data collection is a very crucial aspect for the development of small-scale fisheries. But then I wonder if it now has the approval of the National Council, the Department of Fisheries approval to do that. Would they also consider collecting the data at the gender level? I mean, gender disaggregated data. Because if they're collecting data on the fisheries, it's also important to collect data on the socio-economics as well, the data, because it helps in the evaluation of the economic evaluation of the whole sector overall. And these are the problems that the sector has been dealing with. The evaluation has been done at the fishing level, but it hasn't really done an holistic evaluation of the other nodes of the fishery value chain. So I think data collection on fishery resources is good, but I also wish that there will be another national fish frame survey, that will be all encompassing and will give us real-time benchmark for us to be able to project, better for our needs in future. Thank you.
Well, any other intervention?
Can I respond to
that? You just stop. Don't share your screen now. Solanke, please stop sharing your screen. You creating mess. You are messing up the whole presentation. Presently. Hello. Okay. Yeah. Please. Let's have your intervention.
Can I respond?
Your response.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Fakoya, for your contribution. The Federal Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture has the mandate to collect data on every aspect of fisheries and aquaculture in Nigeria, and it does not limit it to any level at all. Like I said in the presentation, things happened in the country that were beyond the department that led to a breakdown in the collection of data. If you recall, you will know that for years, even the artisanal sector was the sector, the small-scale fishery sector was the sector that had the most attention in data collection until there is a shift to the growth of the industrial sector and the aquaculture sector. And the data that is collected by the Federal Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture is not limited in scope. It's as wide as it could be. And that was why the ministry in year 2013 to 2014 was able to carry out intervention programs for women, specifically for women, under the Growth Enhancement Support Scheme in the country. The ministry has a gender division, division that handles women, and also under rural development, the Department of Rural Development Extension Services, there's the unit that handles women and has data on women, aside from the Federal Ministry of Women Development.
Okay, thank you. I think it's clear. Your point is noted. Because we have just 30 minutes to wrap up this part of the program. So it's noted, but it's also important to know that I think it's one of the problems we have as a country is the over-centralization of things. If only the departments of FDF, the Federal Department of Fisheries and Agriculture, is the only one by constitution by provisions allowed to, then where is the role of the states?
No, the states, I did mention that there's a structure. Probably you didn't hear me, sir. The federal government, state is mandatory for all states to collect data, every state in the country, and they are to report, which they used to do. They submit the data to Federal Department of Fisheries. Federal Department of Fisheries does and Aquaculture, does the collation and sends it to Federal Bureau of Statistics. And then there's used to be the meeting with Central Bank, the department, all the states. That's why we have the National Council on Agriculture.
So I just asked that because we really don't have time, just for us to know. So we move to the next. Thank you for
can I quickly
the
say
intervention
before we move, sir?
No, because we have no time left. We have 30 minutes to go.
Okay, sir.
And we still have about 4 presentations. If we can save time, and others can come in and then make their presentation.
Okay.
Okay. I think your Tommy can then share your screen and make your presentation. So we'll make the presentation maybe 8 minutes each because of time.
Hey everyone, I'm Abiodun Sholanke just told me, speaking on behalf of the listed authors on profiling traditional fish smoking practices in Nigeria for scale-up analysis. This is being presented at IAFA 2022, themed Leading by Example, happening at Cape Town. Food safety, as you know, is a global phenomenon that is being extended to many regions of the world now. And food safety refers to routines in the preparation, handling, and storage of food meant to prevent foodborne illnesses and injury. So food safety and food hygiene are very important because they ensure that foods that are produced and handled are safe for human consumption. Food safety and food quality are still very confusing to many people. While food safety refers to hazards which may make food injurious to the health of the consumers, food quality, on the other hand, includes other attributes that influences a product's value to the consumer. Food and nutrition is still a mirage in many countries of the world, Nigeria inclusive, and we all know that many of the players in this particular value chain, they are still small scale, and that means that they use many at times traditional practices, and these traditional practices are being hampered by adoption of inefficient, inappropriate practices that leads to low standard products many at times. And as we know, for food safety in Nigeria, only a very few information is available on standards. There's still paucity of data, Hence the quest for this particular research or this particular review, which is to evaluate these traditional processes critically, using fish smoking as a case study to identify safety issues and recommend low-hanging upgrade measures. The characteristics of traditional fish smoking are that the method and practices remain at the empirical level. They are crude, they are not standardized, and they are not based on sound scientific principles that can ensure commercial scale, that can ensure these practices upgrading to commercial scale. Then food legislation and traditional food control fail to provide clear mandates and authority to prevent food safety problems. Furthermore, legislation in line with international requirements are not available in many African countries, Nigeria inclusive. Then many of the existing legislation are outdated and inadequate or fragmented. And the enforcement of this particular legislation are still very problematic. As you can see, this image is showing some of the fish smoking practices that are still rampant in Nigeria. So as we can see here, the smoke is all over, which shows that the processes they are largely tedious, they are unhygienic, and they are very simple to understand. So some other characteristics of these traditional fish smoking practices are that for the handling, I told you initially that the quest of this research is to critically evaluate the safety issues based on the different value chain. So for the handling practices, we discovered that the personnel that do most of these practices, they are unhygienic, and even the harvesting facilities too. HACCP, that is hazard analysis, critical control points, are not being considered. As you can see from the first picture here, the catches are mixed, so there is no sorting and grading. And for the processing facility, for the harvesting facility, as you can see for the second picture, there is no coverage, so that means they are exposed to high temperature that favors deterioration of fish. Then gutting may not be done. Gutting is a physical control that helps in delaying deterioration. Some other practices in handling is lack of portable wash water. Many will just use the wash water available at the jetty, and many a times this wash water is already polluted, so it leads to contamination. Then the transport facilities are not appropriate. As you can see, there is no coverage, and there is no provision of refrigeration that helps in delaying deterioration. Then some other practices during pre-processing and smoking are that there is lack of dedicated facilities. Many of them just use facilities available. They don't specially dedicate some facilities that will be used for pre-processing and smoking. Then sorting and grading are still inadequate. Then there is no inappropriate controls, so no chemical or physical controls. Then many of the kilns are made with inappropriate materials. Then the fuel woods have polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons problem, which is carcinogenic. Then some other practices during packaging and storage that many still use inappropriate materials, packaging materials and methods. There's food fraud. They list what is not there, and they list some things. They do not list some things that are there. So the information, the labels on the labeling materials many a times are inadequate. Then even the storage conditions, many use packaging methods that does not protect the content inside. Then many still use insecticide and pesticide, which are hazardous to human health. So for the scale-up analysis now, there should be improved awareness by researchers, and there should be innovation transfer to end users by researchers and agencies. So that means that many of our innovations that are on the shelves of our libraries should be transferred to these end users. Then there should be education on low-cost, simple, available improvements, such as gutting. Gutting is a very simple method that can help them to prevent post-harvest losses to it can help them prevent post-harvest losses by half. So that means if they're experiencing 40% post-harvest losses, can be reduced to 20% by just gutting. Then they can use some traditional preservatives like orange peel for sliming. Then there should be more collaboration between researchers and statistic hubs like the National Bureau of Statistics, so that these statistics and this data can be available to end users. Then there should be more advocacy on non-commercialization of standards. Standards are still being sold in many countries, Nigeria inclusive. So when these standards are sold, that means many of these processors do not have access to this. And there should be development and regular updating of these standards. Then another thing is there should be improvement of interventions or technology similar to what they are doing now. If you go through this YouTube link, is a dissemination workshop of an intervention that was carried out by a team that I was involved in, and what we did was to intervene by producing an improved drum king, which is similar to what they are used to. So adoption was very easy because they see this as something that they are used to and something that is not really many at times dumping whatever technology or whatever indigenous knowledge they have that they have seen to work over the years. Then we can also develop simple HACCP to document indigenous knowledge that work. If we see here, we see this particular picture as a practical guide. So it's actually a simple practical guide that was able to incorporate HACCP into the processing practices that many of these processors, these traditional processors, they use now. Then there should be more research along functional highs. There should be provision of innovations such as cooling boxes. Many of these innovations, they are cheap. A cooling box should be around 12,000, which is not something that an average processor cannot afford. Then there should be introduction of traditional options such as packaging, plant materials, herbs, and less transparent materials to actually extend the shelf life of this product. Then there should be education on labeling with correct information, especially for middle level processors. Effective risk management. So what we were taught in HACCP is that some practices that are risky should be highlighted so that this can be prevented, because as soon as these practices are managed, you discover that the product you get at the end of it all will be an improved one. There should be meeting points between these smallholder processors and producers and processors. They should be linked with people to offtake many of their products. When they see that their products are being offtaken, when they see that their products are being offtook, that is when people go there to buy off their product, they are encouraged to do more. So thank you, and God bless us all.
Okay, thank you. I think let's just take the next presenter that is available because of time. Who is available? I think I saw Capo. If Capo is there, or Agnes, you can take your program. Agnes.
Okay, sir. I heard you. Good afternoon. Let me quickly share my screen.
Okay.
Can you see my screen now?
Now go to, yes, but you have to go to slideshow. Go to slideshow.
Okay.
If you are not ready, we take because we do not really have time. There are very few time left. And we want to make sure that, okay, Capo, if you are ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
Share your screen. You may want to do this in 5 minutes so that we can come back to Agnes if she's set.
Okay.
Oh, is Felicia Eboka ready?
Yes.
Okay, please share your screen.
Yes, I'm ready, sir.
I'm ready, sir.
Please share your screen. Well, all of you, the three of you are not able to share your screen. We don't have the time. I think.
Can they not just speak to their presentations?
You can speak to your presentation. You don't if you don't have the screen.
Yes. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good afternoon. I'm presenting on behalf of two authors. The title of my presentation is a review of the development of artisanal processor in Ilaje local government area, Ondo State, Nigeria. My name is Felicia Y. Eboka from the Department of Aquaculture and Fisheries Management, University of Ibadan, Nigeria, and
Please,
Ariola of
please
Lagos
wait.
State University.
Capo have to stop sharing screen now. We can see your screen now, Capo. So maybe you let Felicia do the presentation and then
Okay, sir.
we can have one person's screen presentation and we are listening to another person.
Okay, sir.
So pull down your screen. Pull down, you have to pull down your screen. Stop sharing. We have created some problem. Okay, Felicia, just continue your presentation.
Good morning, good afternoon. I'm presenting a title, a review of development of artisanal processor in Ilaje local government area, Nigeria. I'm presenting on behalf of two authors. My name is Felicia Y. Eboka from the Department of Aquaculture and Fisheries Management, University of Ibadan, Nigeria, and Oluke O. Ariola of Lagos State University, Department of Fisheries, Lagos State, Nigeria. Introduction. Fish is highly perishable commodity if not handled correctly by fish processor, and is susceptible to high post-harvest losses, physical loss, quality loss, nutritional loss, and market cost loss. Post-harvest losses will therefore be reduced by artisanal processor from the landing shore through the entire value chain. There's limited information on artisanal processor in Nigeria local government area of Nigeria. Objectives of study: to showcase the limited information on the development of artisanal fish processor in Nigeria, to showcase the type and extent of fish losses across the artisanal processor of Ilaje local government area, Nigeria, to carry out a comparative and a comprehensive analysis of standard quality assurance system by fish processor in Ilaje fishing communities, Ondo State. This is a map of Nigeria showing the study state, Ondo State. Materials and methods. A total of 5 fishing communities were selected in the 4 kingdom that Ilaje consists of: Igbo Kingdom, Diogba, Ilefete fishing communities, Mai Kingdom, Orioke Iwamimo, Etikon, Oroyo fishing community, Aeri, Araromi seaside. And this was sampled between April 2018 to October 2019 using proportional allocation. Sampling methods. A total of 60 questionnaires was given to the fish processor at various locations of the kingdom, Igbo, in Etikon and Aeri. Out of this, only 40 questionnaires was resolved, and this was used for data analysis. These are the figure 2 showing the geographical extent of Ilaje fishing communities in Ondo State, Nigeria. Materials and method. Snowball sampling was used to collect information from the
Felicia, sorry, because of time, can you just go to your findings and your conclusion? Because I still want others to just go to your findings and your conclusion.
Okay. Okay. Table 1, the females are mostly represented in fish smoking business in Ilaje community, and this study corresponds with Babatunde Echo display 2004 that most of the fishers are women are into a fish smoking business. Table 2 also shows that most of the fishers buy their fish mostly in the afternoon and evening when they show that the fishers are back from the landing shore, and the time taken by the fishers affect the quality and landing. The time taken by the processor, either by trekking or by wheelbarrow, also causes physical and quality loss. And the time they use in processing their fish, also the time they reach to sell their processed meat at the market also affect quality laws. Table 3, most fish processors, they use drum smoking kilns, and most of the selling points are in the market, either 5 to 9 days intervals. And they experience spoiling, physical loss, quality loss, and market force loss due to poor transportation, seasonal breakage, and low sale. Table 4, most fish processors include losses during processing, particularly
you don't need.
Conclusion.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
This study revealed that the Elijah women are mostly women, and they are mostly single and married, with formal education. They lack capital to purchase modern smoking kilns and lack facilities, thus affecting their smoked fish. And particularly during rainy season, they smoke their fish. They smoke different types of fishing, Mosa, and so on. Then there is no government assistance and
most of the Elijah fishing.
Therefore, the Asnafi process of the Elijah fishing community holds a great potential,
and this corresponds
and
with
have demonstrated to adapt and
and Williams. The majority of the Elijah fishing processors they use smoking. The majority of the fish processors have no access to ice, and this sanitary conditions and animals do wonders. And this
I think
whether smoking kilns and storage facilities the quality of fish smoke.
Thank you.
Times, particularly
thank you for your intervention.
In order not to lose,
also sharing. Please pull down your video. Yes, a video. We are doing two things together. So
quality assurance practices with capacity building in their fish processing occupation. Recommendation based on the findings, the following recommendations were made. Training,
please pull down your video or stop.
For the National processor on modern methods of process and package of the smoked fish. Fisheries health workers and extension officers must have a vital role in play by visiting the landing shore where the fish has been landed before being processed by the artisanal processor. There is need for availability of loan and credit facility, and this will be available to the artisanal processor by forming into groups and purchasing the modern smoking and storage facility. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Who is ready? We have just 5 minutes to go. Between Agnes and Cap.
Let me switch to my slide. Oh, Capo is already sharing his screen.
So Capo, you have 3 minutes. Each of you will present in 3 minutes, and then we can round up.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Agnes Godwin from Lagos State University. I'm presenting a topic titled Identifying Exemplary Case Studies and Good Practices. Sorry, a minute. Title is Roles of Leadership within Action, Research, and Promotion of Sustainable Small-Scale Fisheries, Experience from Classroom and Field. About 3 to 4 decades ago, small-scale fisheries management has been focused on a centralized and a top-down approach, relying on expert science to guide decision-making without considering the fisher's rich knowledge. Due to the failure of this management practice, leadership has now evolved to a bottom-up approach. Leadership starts from the grassroots level, that is an individual farmer who takes daily decision on his goals and objectives, down to local actors, and then research institutes, government agents. Leadership is complex, it is dynamic, it is contextual. Leadership has a great role to play in small-scale fisheries. For example, local actors link with external agents. They negotiate with key stakeholders on how to manage the fisheries resources. External actors provide capacity building to local communities. There's a vertical relationship between the local communities and the higher levels of government. There is need for adequate interaction between local actors.
Can you just summarize your presentation in one sentence?
Yes, okay. Adequate interactions at all levels of leadership, starting from the local community, is very crucial in bridging data gaps and the sustainability in small-scale fisheries.
Thank you. Then, Capo, can you just summarize in 2 minutes you're fine. You don't need to share anything, so that we can round up this session. Okay, is this struggling with the system? Well, I think I want to thank those who attended, leader and others who have joined the section. It's so many good things, good news from the fisheries of Nigeria, the small-scale fisheries of Nigeria, and the growing TBTI community. I think, by and large, the need to have and push the contribution of small-scale fisheries have been made, and what the challenges as well. So I think it's a good point now to round up this session. I want to thank everybody, the panelists from Kafaya, Fuluke, Felicia, Tommy, and every other person. Thank you for joining and making your presentation. I hand over to Nova. I think the online session is over, so that we'll go to the other. I think there's another plenary section now. Thank you. God bless.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you for attending. Thank you.
Thank you to all
Bye.
speakers.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Thank you so much, man.